The massive war room buzzed with excitement. Admiral Kravos stood before the giant star map, his forearms crossed behind his back. The holographic display showed 17 conquered star systems, each one marked with the red symbol of the Vorthak Empire, but his eyes were fixed on one small yellow star at the edge of the map. "Sol," he said, his voice deep and commanding, "our next target." General Thekmor shifted uncomfortably in his chair. The old warrior had seen many battles, and something about this felt wrong. "Admiral, perhaps we should reconsider." The warnings from the Altarians and Zephyrians were quite serious. Captain Vextol laughed loudly. He was young and eager for his first real conquest. "Warnings? From those cowards? They probably want to keep the humans as their personal slaves." Kravos nodded slowly. The Vorthak Empire had grown strong by conquering weak civilizations. In 300 years, they had never lost a single battle. Their ships were the most advanced in the galaxy. Their weapons could destroy entire planets. No species had ever stood against them for more than a few days. "Show me the intelligence report on Earth," Kravos commanded. The star map changed to show a small blue planet orbiting close to its sun. Data scrolled across the screen in glowing letters. Thekmor read aloud, "1 planet. Population 8 billion. Technology level, primitive nuclear and early space travel. Military strength, minimal. Largest weapons can barely damage our smallest scout ships." Vextol stood up and pointed at the display. "Look at this. They still use chemical rockets to leave their planet. Our children's toys are more advanced than their best warships." The room filled with laughter from the other officers. Commander Zelrock, the fleet's intelligence chief, pulled up more images. "They fight among themselves constantly. Over 40 different nations on one small planet. They cannot even unite against threats from their own species." Kravos studied the images of human cities, human soldiers, human weapons. Everything looked so primitive. Their buildings were made of simple materials. Their soldiers carried weapons that would barely scratch Vorthak armor. Their largest warships looked like toys compared to a single Vorthak destroyer. "What exactly did the Altarians say in their warning?" Thekmor asked quietly. Zelrock pulled up the message. Quote, "The humans are different from other species. They do not think like us. They do not fight like us. We strongly advise against any hostile contact." End quote. "Different how?" Vextol demanded. "Different because they are weak? Different because they live on one tiny planet?" "The Zephyrians were more direct," Zelrock continued. "Their message was simple. Turn back now or face extinction." The room exploded with laughter again. Commander Hexval slammed his fist on the table. "Extinction? From creatures who have never left their own solar system? This is the best joke I have heard in decades." Kravos raised his hand for silence. He had not become admiral by ignoring all advice. "Thekmor, what do you think? You have been with the fleet longer than anyone." The old general stood slowly. His scars told the story of 100 battles. "Admiral, I have learned to trust my instincts. Something feels wrong about this. The Altarians have never lied to us. The Zephyrians fear very little. Why would they both warn us about such a primitive species?" "Because they want to protect their trading partners," Vextul interrupted. "The humans probably give them cheap resources. They do not want us to take away their easy profits." Zelrock nodded in agreement. "Our spies report that both the Altarians and Zephyrians have peaceful trade, relationships with Earth. They probably told the humans about our empire and now fear losing their business connections." Kravos walked closer to the display, showing Earth. The planet looked so small and fragile. He could see the lights of human cities on the night side. Millions of tiny lights representing billions of weak creatures who had never faced real war. "How long would conquest take?" he asked. 3 days at most," Vextul answered quickly. 1 day to destroy their space defenses. 1 day to eliminate their military bases. 1 day to accept their surrender. Their largest space station has only 500 people, added Hexval. We have scout ships with larger crews. Thekmor tried one more time. "Admiral, perhaps we could send a small probe first. Study them more carefully before committing the entire fleet." Kravos turned away from the display. His decision was made. "No, we are the Vorthak Empire. We do not sneak around like spies. We do not fear primitive creatures who barely know how to leave their own planet." He pressed a button on his command chair. Immediately, alarms began sounding throughout the massive flagship. "All fleet commanders prepare for immediate departure. Target Sol system. Mission total conquest," Vextul grinned widely. Finally, a real battle. I was getting tired of destroying empty space stations and trading posts. This will not be a real battle, Zelrok corrected. This will be target practice. As the officers filed out to prepare their ships, Thekmor remained behind. He stared at the image of Earth, trying to understand what bothered him so much. The planet looked peaceful. The humans seemed harmless. Their technology was centuries behind Vorthak science. But the warnings echoed in his mind. The Altarians were known for their wisdom. The Zephyrians were famous for their courage. Neither species scared easily. What did they see that the Vorthaks missed? Outside the war room's massive windows, 10,000 Vorthak warships prepared for departure. Each ship was a masterpiece of destruction, capable of turning planets into dust. The smallest destroyer was larger than Earth's biggest space station. The flagship alone carried enough firepower to destroy every human city in a single attack. Thekmor sighed and headed for his own ship. Perhaps he was just getting old. Perhaps seeing so many easy victories had made him paranoid. Perhaps the humans really were just another weak species waiting to be conquered. But deep in his heart, the old warrior felt something he had not experienced in decades. Fear. Not fear of losing the battle. Fear of what they might unleash. The Vorthak fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading toward Sol. Behind them, emergency messages raced across the galaxy. The Altarians sent urgent warnings to all their allies. The Zephyrians began moving their fleets away from Earth space. And on Earth, 8 billion humans continued their daily lives, unaware that their greatest test was coming. Captain Do-hyun stared at the readings on his screen and rubbed his tired eyes. The Earth Defense Force ship Resilience was on routine patrol near Jupiter when the sensors started going crazy. At first he thought it was a malfunction. The numbers made no sense. Lieutenant Haiwan, run a full diagnostic on the sensor array, he ordered. Already did, Captain. 3 times. The readings are correct. Haiwan's voice was tight with worry. We have 10,000 unknown contacts approaching from outside the solar system. Do-hyun felt his stomach drop. 10,000 ships was more than the entire Earth fleet combined. Classification? Unknown design. Much larger than anything in our database. The smallest ones are bigger than our largest battleship. Admiral Sujin's voice crackled over the communications system. All ships, this is Fleet Command. We are tracking massive unknown contacts entering our solar system. All vessels are to maintain positions and await orders. Do-hyun looked around the bridge at his crew. They were good people. Young Lieutenant Haiwan had joined the service to explore space. Engineer Kim had 3 children back on Earth. Navigator Park dreamed of seeing other star systems someday. None of them had signed up to face an alien invasion. Sir, Dr. Tae-woo called from his science station. I'm detecting energy signatures unlike anything we've ever seen. These ships use technology far beyond our current capabilities. The main screen flickered and then displayed an image that made everyone gasp. Thousands of alien warships filled the view, their dark hulls bristling with weapons. Each ship was a work of art and terror, beautiful and deadly at the same time. Incoming transmission, Haiwan reported. It's being broadcast to the entire solar system. Put it on speaker, Do-hyun ordered. A deep alien voice filled the bridge. The words were translated by the ship's computer, but the tone needed no translation. It was the voice of absolute authority and contempt. Primitive creatures of the 3rd planet, I am Admiral Kravos of the Vorthak Empire. Your solar system now belongs to us. You have 72 of your hours to surrender completely. Abandon all weapons. Prepare for occupation. Any resistance will result in the total destruction of your species. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in shocked silence. Dr. Tae-woo was the first to speak. Captain, I've been studying their ships. The energy readings suggest they could destroy entire cities with single shots. How many cities? Do-hyun asked quietly, all of them, at the same time. Admiral Sujin's voice came over the comm again. This is Fleet Command to all ships. We are organizing an immediate response. All available vessels are to report to Mars orbit for emergency conference. Do-hyun made his decision. Navigator Park set course for the alien fleet. Sir? Park looked confused. Admiral Sujin ordered us to Mars, I heard the Admiral. But first we're going to have a little chat with our visitors. Hee-won turned in her chair. Captain, with respect, they have 10,000 ships. We have one. Exactly. Which is why they won't expect us to approach them. Do-hyun stood up and walked to the main screen. Dr. Tae-woo, I want you to record everything about their ships. Every weapon, every energy reading, every piece of technology you can identify. You want to use us as a spy ship. Engineer Kim realized. I want to learn everything we can about our enemies before the real fighting starts. Do-hyun sat back down in his captain's chair. Because make no mistake, there will be fighting. The Resilience changed course and headed toward the alien fleet. As they got closer, the true size of the Vorthak ships became clear. The smallest destroyer was 3 times larger than Do-hyun's vessel. The battleships were like floating cities. The flagship was bigger than some asteroids. They're scanning us, Dr. Taewoo reported. Very sophisticated sensors, but I don't think they consider us a threat. Good. That's exactly what we want them to think. A new transmission came from the alien flagship. This time the voice sounded amused. Small Earth vessel, you approach the Vorthak fleet. State your purpose. Do-hyun activated the communication system. This is Captain Do-hyun of the Earth Defense Force. We request permission to come aboard your flagship for diplomatic talks. Laughter echoed through the speakers. Diplomatic talks? You are in no position to negotiate anything. However, your courage is amusing. Permission granted. Dock at Bay 7. As the Resilience approached the massive alien ship, Dr. Taewoo worked frantically at his station. Captain, I'm getting readings on their weapon systems. Their shields. Their power sources. This is incredible technology. Keep recording, Do-hyun ordered. Everything might be useful later. The docking bay was enormous. Hundreds of Vorthak fighters sat in neat rows, each one more advanced than Earth's best spacecraft. Alien soldiers waited for them, their armor gleaming under strange lights. Do-hyun, Dr. Taewoo, and Lieutenant Hayawan left their ship and were escorted through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The aliens were tall and powerful, with 4 arms and skin like dark metal. They moved with the confidence of a species that had never known defeat. Admiral Kravos waited in a chamber filled with holographic displays. He was bigger than the other aliens, his uniform covered in symbols of rank and conquest. When he spoke, his voice was like distant thunder. So these are humans, smaller than I expected, weaker looking too. He walked around them slowly, studying them like specimens. You wish to discuss surrender terms? Actually, we wanted to ask you to leave, Do-hyun said calmly. The chamber fell silent. Then Kravos began laughing. It was a sound like breaking rocks. Leave? Did this tiny creature just order the Vorthak Empire to leave? We're asking politely, Dr. Taewoo added. This is our solar system. We don't want any trouble. Trouble. Another alien officer stepped forward. Captain Vextul, flagship commander. Human, do you understand what you face? We have conquered 17 star systems. We have destroyed civilizations that were ancient when your species was learning to use fire. That's very impressive, Hayawan said. But this is our home. We're not leaving and we're not surrendering. Kravos stopped laughing. Your home will be a pile of radioactive dust if you resist us. Then that's what it will be, Do-hyun replied. But it will still be our home. Something changed in the alien admiral's expression. For the first time, he looked genuinely puzzled. You would choose death over slavery? Every time, Dr. Taewoo stepped forward. Admiral, we've studied your history. You've conquered many worlds, but you've never conquered Earth. You don't know us. You don't understand what you're facing. Enlighten me, Kravos said sarcastically. We're stubborn, Hayawan said simply. Really, really stubborn. The aliens exchanged glances. This was not going as they expected. Your diplomacy has failed, Vextul announced. Return to your primitive ship. In 72 hours, we begin bombardment. As they walked back to their ship, Dr. Taewoo whispered, Captain, I got everything. Ship designs, weapon signatures, shield frequencies. Our scientists will have plenty to work with. Good, Do-hyun replied. Because we're going to need every advantage we can get. Back on the Resilience, they received new orders from Admiral Soo-jin. Every human ship, station, and colony was mobilizing for war. From Mars to the asteroid belt, humanity was preparing to fight. As they headed back toward Earth, Hayawan asked, Captain, do you really think we can win? Do-hyun looked at the alien fleet behind them. 10,000 ships against a few hundred. Technology centuries more advanced than anything humans possessed. Enemies who had never lost a battle? Probably not, he admitted. But we're going to make them remember us. 3 hours later, the Vorthak demonstration began. Admiral Kravos ordered a single destroyer to target Pluto. One shot turned the dwarf planet into glowing debris. The message was clear. Surrender or face total annihilation? Earth's response came 12 hours later. It was not a message of surrender. It was a declaration of war, broadcast to the entire galaxy. Admiral Su Jin's voice was calm and steady. To all civilizations receiving this transmission, the Vorthak Empire has invaded our solar system and demanded our surrender. We refuse. We will fight with everything we have. We will never surrender. We will never give up. And if we must die, we will make our enemies pay for every life they take. This is humanity. Remember us. In the Vorthak fleet, Admiral Kravos stared at the transmission in disbelief. In 300 years of conquest, no species had ever responded to superior force with defiance. Perhaps, General Tekmor said quietly, we should have listened to the warnings. Commander Byung-ho watched the asteroid mining station explode in the distance. The Vorthak attack had begun exactly 72 hours after their ultimatum. But instead of surrender, they found something no alien species had ever encountered before. Humans with nothing left to lose. Attention all miners, Byung-ho spoke into his communicator. Operation Sledgehammer is now active. You know what to do. Across the asteroid belt, mining ships began their new mission. These were not warships. They were industrial vessels designed to move rocks and extract metals. But engineer Yu Ri had spent the last 3 days turning them into something else entirely. The fusion engines are overloaded, she reported from the mining ship Iron Fist. We'll get maybe 10 minutes of full power before total meltdown. Minutes is all we need, Byung-ho replied. He looked at his crew. These were miners, engineers, and asteroid workers. They had families back on Earth and Mars, but today they were something more. The first Vorthak squadron approached the asteroid belt expecting easy targets. These mining stations had no military value. The humans there should have evacuated or surrendered immediately. Instead, they found 20 mining ships accelerating directly toward them at impossible speeds. Admiral Kravos watched the tactical display in confusion. What are those mining vessels doing? They appear to be attacking us, Admiral, Captain Vextall reported. But they have no weapons. No visible weapons, General Tekmor corrected. But look at their speed. Those ships are pushing their engines far beyond safe limits. On the Iron Fist, Yuri monitored the engine readings. The fusion reactor was running at 200% capacity. The ship's hull was starting to glow from the heat. 2 minutes to impact. Engine meltdown in 90 seconds. Byung-ho opened a channel to all the mining ships. Remember, we're not trying to survive this. We're trying to take as many of them with us as possible. The Vorthak destroyer Deathbringer fired its main weapons at the approaching mining ships. 3 vessels exploded immediately, but the others kept coming. They're not changing course, the Vorthak weapons officer reported. Even after we destroyed their companions, they're not changing course. The first mining ship hit the destroyer's shields at nearly half the speed of light. The fusion engine, already overloaded, detonated on impact. The explosion was visible from Mars. The Vorthak destroyer's shields held, but barely. Before the aliens could celebrate, 5 more mining ships arrived. The impacts came one after another, each explosion weakening the shields further. When the 6th ship hit, the destroyer's shields failed. The 7th ship, loaded with mining explosives, punched through the hull and detonated inside the alien vessel. The Deathbringer broke apart in a chain of secondary explosions. Across the galaxy, Admiral Kravos stared at his tactical display in shock. In 300 years of conquest, the Vorthak Empire had never lost a destroyer to industrial mining equipment. How is this possible? Vextall demanded. They turned their own ships into guided missiles, Tekmor explained. Suicide attacks, but they had no military training. They were civilians. They were humans, Tekmor replied quietly. The pattern repeated throughout the solar system. On Mars, Colonel Wu Jin had spent 3 days teaching factory workers how to use construction equipment as weapons. Giant industrial robots designed to build cities now carried massive bombs toward Vorthak landing sites. Pilot Dong Wook led a squadron of civilian shuttles against a Vorthak cruiser. His ships were cargo haulers and passenger transports armed with mining lasers and industrial cutting tools. They should have been no match for military fighters. But Dong Wook and his pilots had something the aliens didn't expect. Absolute determination to protect their home, regardless of the cost. Remember, he told his squadron, we don't have shields or armor, but we're smaller and faster. Use that advantage. The Vorthak fighters were superior in every way. Better weapons, better shields, better armor, but they were designed to fight other military vessels. Not swarms of suicidal cargo ships that attacked without any regard for their own safety. Dongwook's shuttle Morning Star took a direct hit that destroyed half his engines. Instead of retreating, he used his remaining power to ram the alien fighter that shot him. Both vessels exploded, but his sacrifice allowed 2 other shuttles to get close enough to damage a Vorthak cruiser. On Earth's orbital stations, Dr. Hae-young worked frantically to reverse engineer pieces of alien technology recovered from destroyed Vorthak ships. She had no advanced laboratory, just basic tools and 3 days to create miracles. The alien weapons use a frequency-based energy system, she explained to a team of engineers over video link. If we can match that frequency with our own power systems, can we build weapons to fight them? Engineer Kim asked from his station. Better, Hae-young smiled grimly. We can turn their own weapons against them. Within hours, modified human equipment was firing energy blasts that could damage Vorthak shields. The weapons were crude and often exploded after a few shots, but they worked. Medic Yunsu ran through the corridors of Mars Colony Medical Center, treating wounded soldiers and civilians. The Vorthak bombardment had caused massive casualties, but she refused to leave her post. Doctor, we need to evacuate, a nurse told her. The aliens are landing ground troops 3 kilometers away. Then we treat wounded for 3 more kilometers, Yunsu replied, bandaging a soldier's arm. When they get here, we'll treat wounded in the next room. When they take that room, we'll treat wounded in the storage closet. But doctor, they'll kill us all eventually. Yunsu looked up from her patient. Maybe, but every minute we keep working is another minute our people stay alive. Every life we save is another person who can fight back. The Vorthak ground forces had expected terrified civilians fleeing in panic. Instead, they found organized resistance at every turn. Human children threw improvised bombs from windows. Elderly people turned their homes into traps. Even wounded humans continued fighting until their last breath. In the asteroid belt, Commander Byung-ho's mining teams had destroyed 12 Vorthak ships using converted industrial equipment. The cost was enormous. Almost every mining station in the belt was gone, and thousands of humans had died. But the psychological impact on the Vorthak fleet was even greater. Admiral, Captain Vex Tool reported, we've lost over 3,000 ships in the first week. Kravos couldn't believe it. 3,000? To primitive humans with no real military? They don't fight like any species we've encountered, General Techmore explained. They use suicide tactics. They turn civilian equipment into weapons. They refuse to surrender even when facing certain death. More disturbing, added Intelligence Chief Zelrock, they're learning. Every attack is more sophisticated than the last. They're studying our technology and adapting faster than we thought possible. On Jupiter's moon Europa, young Eugen was supposed to be in school. Instead, the 12-year-old genius was in the colony's computer center, writing code that would change the course of the war. I think I found a way into their communication system, she told the adult technicians. Their security is really good, but they didn't expect someone my age to try hacking them. What can you do? Asked the chief programmer. I can make their ships think they're getting orders from their own commanders, Eugen explained. False retreat commands, wrong target coordinates, fake damage reports. That's actually brilliant. Within hours, Vorthak ships across the solar system began receiving conflicting orders. Some turned around and retreated. Others fired on their own allies. The chaos lasted only a few minutes before the aliens figured out what was happening, but those few minutes cost them dozens more ships. Admiral Kravos stood in his command center, staring at the tactical display showing his diminishing fleet. In 1 week, he had lost more ships than in the previous 50 years of conquest combined. Admiral, Techmore said quietly, perhaps we should consider withdrawal. Withdrawal? Vextall snapped. From primitive creatures who fight with mining equipment and cargo ships? Primitive creatures who have destroyed over 3,000 of our vessels, Techmore replied. Primitive creatures who refuse to surrender. Primitive creatures who fight harder the more desperate they become. Kravos thought about the warnings they had received. The Altarians had said humans were different. The Zephyrians had warned of extinction. Now he was beginning to understand what they meant. Humans didn't just fight to win. They fought to survive. And when survival was impossible, they fought to make their enemies pay the highest price possible for victory. Continue the attack, Kravos ordered, but increase bombardment of their civilian centers. Maybe we can break their will to fight. Techmore shook his head sadly. The Admiral still didn't understand. Attacking human civilians wouldn't break their will to fight. It would make them fight harder. General Wu Jin stood in the ruins of New Seoul, watching Vorthak drop ships land in the distance. The alien bombardment had destroyed half the city, but the surviving humans had used the rubble to build something the invaders never expected. A fortress designed specifically to kill aliens. Remember, he told his soldiers over the comm system, they're stronger than us, better armed than us, and their technology is centuries ahead of ours, but they don't know how humans think. Private Moonsu crouched behind a makeshift barricade built from destroyed cars and furniture. She was a teacher before the war, but now she held a weapon created from alien wreckage and human desperation. General, the biological weapon is ready for deployment. Dr. Hae-young's voice crackled through their earpieces. The virus should specifically target their respiratory system. I've tested it on tissue samples from destroyed alien ships. It's lethal to their species but harmless to humans. Wu Jin nodded grimly. 3 weeks ago he would have been horrified at the idea of using biological weapons. Now, with Earth burning and millions dead, moral concerns seemed like luxuries he couldn't afford. The first Vorthak ground troops entered the city, expecting broken resistance from demoralized survivors. Instead, they found an intricate maze of traps, ambushes, and horrors specifically designed to exploit their weaknesses. Captain Vex Tool led the assault personally. His power armor could stop any human weapon, and his soldiers were trained warriors who had conquered dozens of worlds. A few thousand desperate humans hiding in ruins should be easy prey. The first trap activated when his troops reached the city center. What looked like ordinary rubble suddenly exploded upward, launching chunks of metal and concrete at high speed. 3 aliens died instantly, their armor pierced by debris moving faster than bullets. Kinetic traps, Vex Tool reported to his ships. Humans are using gravity and momentum as weapons. The second trap was worse. As his soldiers advanced down a street, the buildings on both sides collapsed inward simultaneously. The humans had spent days weakening the structures and planting explosives, turning entire city blocks into giant crushing devices. But the third trap was the one that made Vex Tool realize they were facing something beyond normal warfare. A group of human children approached his position carrying white flags. Vorthak military doctrine was clear. Non-combatants were to be captured, not killed. Vex Tool ordered his soldiers to lower their weapons. The children smiled and activated the bombs hidden under their clothes. The explosion killed 12 Vorthak soldiers and wounded twice that number. But the psychological impact was far worse. These humans were using their own young as weapons. All units, Vex Tool broadcast, be advised that human non-combatants may be armed and hostile. No exceptions. General Techmore received the report aboard the flagship with growing horror. They're using children as suicide bombers? Not just children, Intelligence Chief Zelrock added. Elderly humans, wounded humans, even humans who appear to be surrendering. Every human is a potential weapon. Admiral Kravos studied the battlefield reports with disbelief. How are they manufacturing so many explosives? Our bombardment should have destroyed their weapons factories. They're not using traditional weapons factories, Zelrock explained. They're making bombs from household chemicals, industrial equipment, and pieces of our own destroyed ships. Every human home has become a weapons laboratory. In the underground tunnels beneath New Seoul, civilian leader Moonsu coordinated the resistance networks. She had been a city planner before the war, which made her perfect for organizing urban warfare. Team Alpha, the aliens are moving through Sector 7, she reported. Team Beta collapsed the tunnel behind them. Team Gamma, flood Sector 8 with the gas we prepared. Copy that, came the replies from humans hiding throughout the city. These weren't soldiers. They were shop owners, students, office workers, and parents. But they had spent 3 weeks learning to fight like demons. Dr. Hae-young monitored the biological weapon from her hidden laboratory. Infection rate is exceeding expectations, she reported. The aliens' immune systems have no defense against Earth bacteria modified with their own genetic material. How long until they figure out countermeasures? Wu Jin asked. Maybe a week. But I'm already working on version 2. By the time they develop immunity to this virus, I'll have 3 more ready. You're creating biological weapons faster than they can defend against them? I'm a mother, Hae-young replied simply. They killed my daughter. I'll create 1,000 viruses if that's what it takes. Young Yujin had moved beyond simple computer hacking. Working with a team of adult programmers, she had created something unprecedented. A learning virus that infected Vorthak computer systems and adapted to their security measures in real time. Their ships are reporting false sensor readings, she explained to the resistance leaders. They think they're shooting at our fighters, but they're actually hitting empty space. Meanwhile, our real attacks are coming from directions their computers can't see. How is this possible? Asked one of the adults. Their programming is really logical and efficient, Yujin said. But it's not creative. It follows rules. My virus breaks the rules in ways their computers can't predict. The Vorthak fleet was beginning to experience unprecedented problems. Ships fired on their own allies. Navigation systems guided vessels into asteroid fields. Communication networks broadcast false orders. Captain Vextool's ground assault had turned into a nightmare. His forces controlled less territory than when they started, despite superior weapons and armor. Worse, they were losing soldiers to tactics no military academy had ever taught them to counter. Sir, one of his officers reported, the humans have flooded Sector 12 with a corrosive gas that eats through our armor. Sector 15 is filled with some kind of biological agent that causes respiratory failure. And Sector 18, what about Sector 18? It's full of human children, sir. But our sensors indicate they're all carrying explosive devices. Vextool removed his helmet and rubbed his face with all four hands. They've turned their own young into walking bombs. What kind of species does that? A desperate one, came a voice from behind him. Vextool spun around to see General Wu Jin emerging from what had appeared to be solid rubble. The human held a weapon that looked like it was built from spare parts, but the alien captain's sensors detected lethal energy readings. General Wu Jin, I presume, Vextool said. I've heard reports about you. You're the one turning civilians into soldiers. I'm not turning them into anything, Wu Jin replied. I'm just teaching them how to kill you more efficiently. You're using children as weapons. That violates every civilized standard of warfare. Wu Jin's expression didn't change. You destroyed their schools, their homes, their families. What did you expect them to become? We expected them to surrender. Then you don't understand humans at all? The two commanders stared at each other across the ruins of a city. One represented the most powerful military empire in the galaxy. The other represented a species that had never conquered anything beyond their own planet. Your resistance is futile, Vextool said. We have 10,000 ships. We have technology you can't match. We have conquered 17 civilizations. And now you're losing to the 18th, Wu Jin replied. Do you know why? Enlighten me. Because those other 17 civilizations fought you like civilized beings. They followed rules. They tried to minimize casualties. They hoped for negotiated settlements. Wu Jin raised his improvised weapon. We don't. The shot that killed Captain Vextool was heard throughout the city. It was the signal for the final phase of the human counterattack. Across New Seoul, every building, every tunnel, every piece of rubble that the aliens had captured exploded simultaneously. The humans had spent weeks planting charges and preparing for this moment. They weren't trying to save the city. They were trying to turn it into the aliens' grave. The explosion was visible from orbit. Admiral Kravos watched his ground forces disappear in a ball of fire that consumed 20 square kilometers. In that instant, he lost over 50,000 soldiers and his most experienced ground commander. Sir, General Thekmore said quietly, I'm receiving surrender requests from 3 of our cruiser captains. They're requesting permission to withdraw from the system. Surrender requests? From Vorthak officers? They're saying the humans fight like nothing they've ever encountered. They're saying this isn't war, it's madness. Kravos looked at his tactical display. In 3 weeks, he had lost over 7,000 ships. His ground forces had been annihilated. His computer systems were compromised. His soldiers were dying from diseases that didn't exist 3 weeks ago, and the humans were getting stronger. Admiral, Zelrock reported, we're detecting new human ship movements. They're using our own technology, reverse-engineered from captured wreckage. How many ships? Unknown. They're using some kind of stealth system we can't penetrate. Our sensors show empty space, but our ships keep getting attacked by invisible enemies. Admiral Kravos finally understood what the Altarians and Zephyrians had been trying to tell him. Humans weren't just different because they were primitive or desperate. They were different because they didn't fight like civilized beings. They fought like something that evolution had designed specifically to survive. Fleet Admiral Ji-hoon stood on the bridge of the newly commissioned Earth battleship Defiance, watching the last Vorthak ships retreat toward the edge of the solar system. 6 months ago, this vessel had been pieces of alien wreckage scattered across the asteroid belt. Now it was humanity's first true starship, built from captured technology and human determination. "Sir," reported Navigation Officer Chang Min, "the alien fleet is jumping to hyperspace. They're leaving the system. How many ships are left?" Ji-hoon asked. 847, Admiral. Down from 10,000. Ambassador So Young approached from the communication station. "Admiral, we're receiving messages from across the galaxy. The news of our victory is spreading faster than the Vorthak retreat." Ji-hoon nodded slowly. The war was over, but he knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had announced itself to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible, by defeating an empire that had never lost a battle. On Earth, President Chang Min addressed the surviving population from the rebuilt capital. The planet bore scars that would take generations to heal. Entire cities were gone. Billions had died. But humanity had survived, and that was what mattered. "My fellow humans," he began, "today we celebrate not just victory, but survival. We have proven that no force in the galaxy can break the human spirit. But with this victory comes responsibility. We are no longer alone in the universe, and the universe is watching us." Admiral Miran commanded the defensive perimeter around Earth, monitoring space for any signs of new threats. The humans had learned from their experience with the Vorthaks. Never again would they be caught unprepared. "Admiral," her communications officer reported, "we're receiving a transmission from the Altarian Confederacy." "Put it through." The alien diplomat appeared on screen, his features showing a mixture of relief and worry. "Admiral Miran, I am Ambassador Zeth Cole. The Altarian Confederacy wishes to congratulate humanity on your victory over the Vorthak Empire." "Thank you, Ambassador. Though I suspect congratulations aren't the only reason for this call." "You are correct. We wish to discuss diplomatic relations between our species. The galaxy has taken notice of your capabilities." Myran smiled grimly. "You mean they're scared?" "Terrified would be more accurate. In 6 months, you destroyed the most powerful military force in known space. You did so using tactics and weapons that violated every established rule of civilized warfare. You fought with a ferocity that no species has ever demonstrated. We fought to survive. Yes. And that is what terrifies them." Across the galaxy, emergency sessions were being held in the councils of every major civilization. The Zephyrian Alliance had called for immediate military preparedness. The Centauri Republic was reinforcing their borders. The Galactic Trade Federation was debating whether to classify humanity as a Class 5 hostile species. On the Altarian homeworld, High Council leader Velmore addressed the emergency assembly. "Fellow Altarians, the Vorthak Empire is no more. Their fleet has been scattered, their military broken, their confidence shattered. This should be cause for celebration." "Should be?" asked a council member. "The humans who destroyed the Vorthaks are now building their own interstellar fleet. They have reverse-engineered Vorthak technology and improved upon it. Their first starships are already more advanced than anything we possess." Murmurs of concern filled the chamber. "More troubling," Velmore continued. "Our intelligence suggests they are not content to remain in their solar system. They are preparing to explore the galaxy." On the Zephyrian Military Command Station, General Korvtek studied tactical reports from the Sol system. "Analysis complete," he announced to his staff. "Human military doctrine is unlike anything in our databases." "How so, General?" asked his aide. "They don't distinguish between military and civilian targets. Every human is a potential combatant. Their entire society can be mobilized for war within days. They use suicide tactics without hesitation. They adapt to enemy technology faster than any species on record. Recommendations? Immediate diplomatic contact. Offer them everything they want. Make them our allies before they decide we're their enemies." In the ruins of the Vorthak homeworld, the surviving members of the Empire's High Command tried to understand what had happened. Admiral Kravos sat in chains, awaiting trial for the greatest military disaster in galactic history. General Thekmore, one of the few senior officers to survive, gave his testimony to the tribunal. "The humans fought like no species we had ever encountered. They turned their weakness into strength, their desperation into weapons. We had superior technology, superior numbers, superior training, but they had something we couldn't counter. Which was? Asked the tribunal leader. The absolute refusal to accept defeat. We could destroy their ships, their cities, their armies, but we could not break their will to fight. Every loss made them more determined. Every casualty made them more creative. Every defeat taught them how to hurt us more effectively. You're saying they learned from being beaten? I'm saying they thrived on it. Back in the Sol system, Captain Do-hyun prepared for humanity's first diplomatic mission to alien space. The Resilience had been rebuilt with hybrid human Vorthak technology. It was no longer just a patrol ship, but a symbol of human ingenuity and determination. Captain, Dr. Taewoo reported from his science station, we're receiving long-range communications from multiple alien civilizations. They all want to establish formal diplomatic relations. Translation: they all want to make sure we don't come after them next, Lieutenant Haiwan added. Do-hyun smiled. Can you blame them? 6 months ago, we were a single-planet species that had never left our solar system. Now we've destroyed the galaxy's most powerful empire, and we're building starships that make their fleets look primitive. Sir, Engineer Kim called from his station, we're detecting multiple alien fleets moving away from our borders. It looks like they're creating a buffer zone around human space. How large a buffer? About 50 light-years in all directions. They're that scared of us? Dr. Taewoo pulled up a tactical display showing alien fleet movements across the galaxy. Captain, look at this pattern. Every major civilization is repositioning their forces as far from Earth as possible, while still maintaining their territorial claims. Do-hyun studied the display with growing amazement. They're treating us like a natural disaster, something to be avoided rather than confronted. On the bridge of Earth's newest battleship, Admiral Ji-hoon received reports from human scout ships exploring the edges of the solar system. Admiral, reported Captain Park, we found 17 abandoned Vorthak bases within 100 light-years of Earth. They evacuated everything and left. They're not planning to come back? Doesn't look like it, sir. We also found something else. What? Automated warning beacons. Hundreds of them. All broadcasting the same message. Ji-hoon raised an eyebrow. Which is, warning to all vessels, you are approaching human space. The species inhabiting this region has been classified as extremely hostile. Do not approach. Do not attempt contact. Do not threaten. Retreat immediately and report your presence to the nearest galactic authority. Ambassador So-young laughed despite herself. They're warning other aliens about us. Gets better, Captain Park continued. The beacons also include detailed tactical data about human fighting methods. Suicide attacks, civilian mobilization, technological adaptation, biological warfare, computer viruses, psychological warfare. They've basically written a manual on why not to fight humans. Admiral Ji-hoon walked to the main view screen showing the vast expanse of space beyond their solar system. 6 months ago, humanity had been alone and ignorant of the galaxy beyond their small world. Now they were the species every other civilization feared. Sir, So-young asked, what are our orders for the diplomatic mission? Ji-hoon considered the question carefully. We're going to visit our new neighbors. We're going to be polite, respectful, and diplomatic. And if they threaten us, then we're going to remind them why the Vorthak Empire no longer exists. The final transmission came from the edge of human space, broadcast on all galactic frequencies. It was a simple message, sent from an automated beacon that the humans had built from Vorthak wreckage. This is a message from the Human Defense Force to all civilizations receiving this transmission. 6 months ago, the Vorthak Empire invaded our solar system and demanded our surrender. We refused. The Vorthak Empire no longer exists. We are not conquerors. We are explorers. We seek peaceful relations with all species. But let this serve as a permanent reminder. We will never surrender, we will never give up, and we will never stop fighting for our freedom. Approach us with respect and friendship, and you will find us to be valuable allies. Approach us with hostility or threats, and you will discover why the galaxy's most powerful empire learned to fear the name human. This message will repeat every hour for the next 1,000 years, in council chambers and military headquarters across the galaxy. Alien leaders studied the message and made their decisions. The consensus was unanimous. Humanity would be treated with the utmost respect and caution. The species that had destroyed the Vorthak Empire in 6 months was now building a fleet to explore the galaxy. Every civilization that encountered them would remember the warnings, Don't threaten the humans. Don't underestimate